Hey, everybody, it is Jim Johnson here, your head coach with Contractor Coach Pro. And we've got another amazing episode of Contractor Radio here. It's one of those things I enjoy doing this, especially when we have great guests. And last week I had the honor of bringing on an amazing guest, and we were talking about the things that your presentation should have in it, what homeowners and clients demand that your presentation should have, and these 5 key components. And it was a great conversation. If you haven't heard that podcast, go back and listen to that podcast from last week, and you'll get a little insight into who our guest is today. But before we do any of that, we have this fun thing that we have to do that's called keeping the lights on, right? And so we need to get one of our sponsors out there, our premier sponsor. We love these guys. Let's go ahead and hear a little bit of a word from Atlas.
When you're looking for shingles, you need to look for that Scotchgard brand that Atlas has on the shingles to know that you're getting protection against those black streaks caused by algae.
I think the Scotchgard is an important part of it.
And they're literally putting their science into the product.
It eliminates all streaking on the roofs.
Everyone knows Scotchgard.
So it gives it some legitimacy. When we go into a home to sell a roof, and the Scotchgard branding's on our samples or on our literature, I mean, it is recognized.
Homeowners can't tell you what kind of brand of shingle that they have, but they can tell you that it has Scotchgard.
Husbands, but most importantly, wives. The women know Scotchgard. You go into that house and you say, you're gonna have a clean roof, it's backed by Scotchgard. Wow.
Everything comes with Scotchgard. Our new couch came with Scotchgard. Our new chair came with Scotchgard.
Hey, you got Scotchgard on your furniture. Now we got it on shingles for you. No more black algae.
It's just that brand recognition, so the client just feels really comfortable. It definitely builds credibility as well.
When we present an Atlas shingle to a customer and we tell them that this has a Scotchgard warranty backed by 3M, the trust is there.
We feel more confident that they feel confident in us that we're giving them a product that's going to last for the life of the roof.
You're not only selling the color, then you're selling the long-lasting color, and it lasts for a lifetime.
Sold. Done deal.
If I can put on all Atlas products and avoid any type of streaking and drive by that roof 10 years from now, and it looks like the day we put it on, that's what I'm looking for. That's the peace of mind I want to give my customers. It's just an easy sell.
So if you want to give your customers a roof that looks like the day it was put on down the road, get a hold of Atlas, your Atlas local manufacturer's rep, and find out more about their Atlas Pro Contractor program. It does help you differentiate yourself in the market and win more deals. So last week, like I said, we talked about these 5 things that are the customer demands in a presentation. While we were having that conversation, the idea of the marketing funnel and the full marketing funnel, and then this concept of compounding microgains came up. And I was super interested. I wanted to talk about this. And as I talked with our guest more, I found out he's literally like the guru of digital marketing. Tim, welcome back to the show here on Contractor Radio. Good to have you again. Thanks for coming right back.
Well, you're welcome. Thanks for the invitation to come back. It was fun last week. Look forward to this session.
Well, whenever I find a smart guy, I like to take everything out of him I can possibly get. So you are one of those guys. Nathan, my right-hand man, and I talked about you afterwards. He goes, I knew you two were going to get along because I like the history of this industry. The fact that you literally created Market Sharp. So you might have a bit of knowledge whenever it comes to marketing, especially from a digital platform perspective. And I wanted to bring you back. But before we do that, and before I spoil too much story, just give us a little reminder of kind of your route to where you are now with Paradigm Vendo, and a little bit of what Paradigm Vendo does.
Yeah, you bet. We'll do the short version. We did the longer version last week. So if anybody wants to review that, just check out that podcast. Got started in the home improvement industry, in the 80s. And in the window replacement business, door replacement business, things such as that. And was going well. Long story short, one day I picked up a computer, decided to fiddle with it, ended up creating something that's now known as a CRM. and ended up turning into a business of its own. And you mentioned before it turned into a product called Market Sharp that's used by thousands of home improvement companies now. Since then, in August of last year, I made the move after 30 years with Market Sharp to a company also in Wisconsin called Paradigm. And Paradigm has a product called Vendo, which is an in-home sales, presentation, quoting, contract generation tool. And hence we had that conversation last week regarding presentations and how you can spruce those up a little bit. So yeah, that's a little bit about my background, Jim. I'm kind of excited. You and I just met last week actually, but I'm really interested and excited about all the good stuff you guys are doing for the industry as well.
Well, we love doing it, and one of the ways we do that is this Contractor Radio podcast. We want to bring on interesting people that share intelligence and knowledge with contractors so that they can get control of their business, grow their business, and hopefully find some of that personal financial freedom they were aiming for when they started their business. And last time we talked about, the more of the sales side of things, what Vendo does and its product, but we got to get in front of those people in the first place. And so marketing and sales are brother and sister. They work symbiotically, side by side. And it's funny because we've done a podcast in the past of the battle between marketing and sales. You got your marketers over there generating opportunities, and then you got your salespeople going out there and attempting to close those opportunities. And there's always this battle, like finding quality versus quantity, providing opportunities that are legitimate. And that's always a hard thing to kind of, have you experienced that between like sales teams and marketing teams?
I certainly have. And, now that you mentioned that, I got a stat here I'd like to begin our conversation with. It's from an organization called Velocify Market Research. And here's what they say. They say lead conversion, and that's really the center of the topic we're doing today, is determined 57% by lead quality and 43% by sales process. Now, having said that, I'd like our listeners not to get too hung up on whether they think 57 is right and 43 is right for their business, because those numbers will vary depending on a number of things, how you're getting leads, things such as that. But I think what we got to remember about this is lead conversion really is made up of those two elements: generating the best quality leads you possibly can, but then having that sales process that can increase your chances of getting those things converted. Because when you think about it, if all of your leads are coming from repeat referral business, things such as that, the lead quality is through the roof. And frankly, your sales process, your marketing process that goes along with it doesn't have to be anything too special. But if most of your leads are coming from like sweepstakes entries, more nebulous leads like those, the lead quality, not really good. So your sales and marketing process has to be through the roof in terms of its quality and what you do with that. So yeah, I have seen that battle between sales and marketing, and constantly fingers are being pointed at each other. And the companies that really knock it out of the park are the ones that get those two departments working like this. And hopefully we can talk about some things today that can help that.
I think most of us kind of run that route whenever we start our business, right? We run this route of, I kind of have the word of mouth thing going. I've let a few people know what I'm doing. I start getting some of that business. It seems really easy because every sale has a really strong opportunity. And you start to generate enough revenue, enough profit to start investing into marketing. And then you're trying to figure out what that is, right? Like, how do I make this work? And then you go, wait, well, hold on a second. I'm not closing 80% anymore. Now I'm closing 20%.
Right.
And trying to find that balance between those two. And so we're going to talk about the marketing funnel today, really and truthfully, the full marketing funnel. So could you explain that so we can set a little bit of a baseline for where we're going to go with this conversation today?
Yeah, absolutely. First off, I'll describe the marketing funnel. And then what I want to do is I want to share some metrics that we did share on the podcast last week, but we'll go through it quickly because it does set the tone for what we're discussing here today. But what I'd like our listeners to do is have this visualization in your mind about a marketing funnel or a funnel in general. And typically a funnel starts wider at the top, gets narrower, and you got a very small opening on the bottom. And that's really what a lot of our businesses look like. So let's describe the phases of the marketing funnel. And in a second here, we're going to kind of take a look at this from a different angle. So hopefully this will make sense. But this is what all of us go through in the business now. The first thing we got to do is generate inquiries. Those are called leads. We got to get lead generation doing its job, having people raise their hand and say, hey, I'm interested in what you guys got. Whether it's a burning desire to be presented, or whether it's kind of like, yeah, okay, tell me a little bit. I'm kind of interested, or somewhere in between. But that's where the whole thing begins. And then it doesn't stop. Then we got to take those inquiries we got to get those things converted to set appointments. And we're going to talk about each one of these individually, Jim, and how we can improve these. And that's one area where I think a lot of companies can really, really make some improvement in their business and see some profits go to the bottom line. Now, once you get an appointment set, not done. Now you got to get that appointment converted to a full demo, because not all appointments turn into full demos, as we all know. And then when we get that done, then we have our opportunity to actually make our presentation, and we want to convert those demos to sales, either now or in the future. And we'll talk about that in a second as well. And then we're still not done. Once we get a sale and we got an installed project, we now want to convert that customer we have to what we want to call a lifetime customer. Some people want to call them a raving fan, but somebody who's a true ambassador for your company. Because what that unleashes for you is reviews, repeat business, referrals. And that's the stuff we love in this business. So that's the funnel: generating inquiries, converting inquiries, set appointments, appointments to full demos, demos to sales, customers to lifetime customers. That's really what the funnel is all about.
So the thing that you brought up that was really interesting to me, and you put some math to it, I think you're going to share some of that math today, was that at each one of those, if we just improved a little bit, it would have a big effect. This concept of compounding micro gains. So each one of those, if we can make a little bit of movement, it compounds the actual full result in the end. Can you explain that concept a little bit of what we mean by the compounding effect of microgains?
I can, and you did a pretty good job there, because what will happen when we wind this session down, Jim, we're going to talk about some things that everybody can do to improve each phase of this marketing funnel. But then we're going to go ahead and put a small improvement, incremental improvement in each one of these activities you go through with your business, and see what happens when those things get added together and give you that end result. It's actually quite amazing. So we won't really share with the group right now what that's going to end up being. We'll kind of hold that for the end. But that's the idea. But what I'd like to do now, I'd like to review some industry metrics that I think will paint the picture very well for what we go through in this marketing funnel in our industry. And these metrics are courtesy of our friends at MarketChart. And they have a huge number of people using their CRM and a ton of data to analyze. So what I did is pulled that out, and they gave permission to use this data, and it really tells a great story. So if you got your pen and paper out, now might be a good time to take a note or two. So what we're going to do,
I didn't know I was going to have to take notes, but I'm ready.
All right. What we're going to do is go through this marketing funnel and talk about the industry as a whole. And this is a huge sampling of the industry, so they're very reliable numbers. We're going to take a look at what this looks like. So let's begin with inquiries. Last year with this group, 3,027,126 leads were generated. Okay, let's keep going. Of those, 55.6% of those turned into appointments set, which is 1.686 million. Not done. Of those, 80.7% of those turned into leads actually issued to salespeople, because not all leads that get set are issued to salespeople for a variety of reasons. And we're still not done. Of those, 77.1% of leads issued actually turned into full demos in the home, or however you demo. That's 1 million leads were fully demoed. Now, of those, 37.2% turned into net sales and installed projects. 391,000 sales with an average sale in this group of $10,611. So this group represented $4,150,850,605 worth of installed home improvements.
Not a bad industry.
No, it's not bad at all. But here's the deal. We went through those numbers, 55.6, 80.7, 77.1, 37.2. And your mind probably didn't do the math quick enough. But here's a metric I think we should all track, and many of us don't. And what that is the difference between inquiries, the top of the funnel, and net sales as we approach the bottom of the funnel. And with this group, 12.9% of inquiries turned into net sales. And Jim, there's a point I want to make about this that's somewhat related to the topic today, and in some cases not. But here's the deal. We went through a heck of a last couple years in terms of consumer demand. You know, it was off the charts. Who would have thought when COVID hit that happened? You know, consumers just wanted to do things with their home. So demand was off the charts, but something very interesting. I went back and analyzed these metrics a couple years ago in 2019, before the pandemic. And guess what the conversion rate was for inquiries to installed sales?
Well, I kind of cheat because I listened to a podcast last week.
All right.
But it was better.
It was 15.4%, or 16% better than what we went through the last couple of years with this demand that was off the charts. And that made me scratch my head when I saw that. I said, "Whoa, what's this about?" And frankly, I think what it's about, along with maybe some other reasons, along with abundance, meaning unprecedented demand, often comes waste. And by waste, I mean inefficient processes in your marketing funnel. So we went from 15.4% conversion as an industry group, 2019, to 12.9 last year. So very interesting stuff. So that kind of sets the stage.
Yeah, I think that's really the point of today's conversation is how can we become less wasteful with the investment that we've made? Because that's what it is. Whenever you're marketing, you've made an investment either of money or time, one of those two things, to get this opportunity in front of you. And if you're wasting, I always look at it as like wasting actual dollars. Like I'm literally setting $100 bills on fire, just throwing them in the garbage because I'm not doing what's necessary to be effective and efficient throughout that funnel. So if it's okay with you, we want to go through the funnel and maybe help these guys become a little bit more effective and efficient at each one of those areas?
You bet.
They can start to move the number a little bit?
Because you bet. And
I should like to get back to the 15.4 or even above that in my own company.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be great.
Awesome.
So let's do this. Let's set the stage. And what I'd like us to look at when we're thinking about this marketing funnel is I'd like us to look at it this way. We're actually making 5 sales throughout this process. And sometimes we don't look at this way. We look at, we got to make 1 sale. That's when we make a presentation and we try to close it. No, there's actually 5 sales going on. Because think of this. The first sale you have to make is your top of funnel. You got to make a sale to get somebody to raise their hand and say, interested in what you got. So your marketing has to make a sale right there. Okay, sale number 2 that you have to make, we've already covered this, is you now have to convert that inquiry to that set appointment. That's also a sale. A lot of us don't look at it that way, but it is. And we'll cover some things along those lines that I think can help the listeners in their business. Okay, we're still in the mid funnel now. So now we got that appointment set. Now, what can we do to convert that to a complete demo, complete presentation? And you might think, well, there's really not much you can do with that. Some things just don't work out. Yeah, that's not the case. There are certainly things you can do to improve your chances to take somebody that did say, yes, come see us, to actually follow through and give you the time to make a full presentation. And then we're going to enter the bottom of the funnel, sale number 4. that's the one we typically consider the sale. And that's where we have a chance to make our presentation and convert them to a customer, get a contract out, whether that be right now for you one-call closers or sometime in the future. Doesn't matter. Either one is important to your business. And then as we exit the bottom of the funnel, the last sale you have to make is you got to convert that brand new customer to a lifetime customer and that raving fan. And you might say, is that really a sale? Yeah, it is. You really got to give them the opportunity to be that ambassador for your company and give them and enable them to do the things necessary. So,
and I always like to draw attention to that last one there, because it's dependent on those first four. If you do everything right through those first four, you have earned the right to ask for that last sale.
Yep.
So I think that's a big point that, and I'm going to ask you this when we get to the referral aspect of this. I got some questions there, but do we want to start with generating more inquiries?
We do.
All right.
Let's start there. I'm sure you got plenty of input here, Jim. So let's just dive in and get into these 5 sales. Talk about some things we can do to help. So,
and before we do that, I want to draw attention to the listener here. Tim is absolutely right. Each one of those is a sale. The very first one is just you're putting something out there that they go, hey, I'm kind of interested. So it has to be good. It has to be solid. It has to speak to them specifically. And so in order to generate more inquiries, what are some of the things that that contractor out there should think about, Tim?
Yeah, the first thing I would think of, and I don't know, have you ever heard of a guy by the name of Willie Sutton?
Yeah, I have, yes.
Yeah. Willie Sutton, known as Slick Willie, the most famous bank robber in the world, way back. And here's the deal. One day a reporter asked him after he got caught, said, Willie, tell us, why'd you do it? And he's famously known for answering that question as to why he robbed banks by saying this. Well, because that's where the money is. I'm thinking, okay. When you think about it, there's actually 2 things, something called Sutton's Law, which is taught to medical students to look for the obvious in their diagnosis, and also in accounting or activity-based cost accounting called the Willie Sutton Rule, where cost should be applied where the money is. So kind of interesting. So what's that got to do with lead generation? Well, pretty simple. When you want to spend some money and generate some leads, spend it and go to where the leads are. And that seems obvious, Jim, but I see way too many people not putting much thought into that and really, really knowing their metrics as they go with their marketing dollars so they can continue to refine and be better at picking where to spend their money. So
we call that the shotgun approach.
Exactly.
You're just out there trying everything under the sun because nothing's working for you, and you're rooting for this magic bullet that you pull the trigger the right time in the right place in the right situation. So all of a sudden figured it out. I got a bunch of leads.
Yeah, you're right. Back to Willie Sutton. There's one more quote from Willie. After he said, yeah, because that's where the money is. His other quote is, go to where the money is and go there often. He obviously did it more than once. And really, that's our job. So with that said, what should we do? Let me just generally say something that I think everybody should know and probably does know. So forgive me if I'm really beating a dead horse here. But obviously, where people are right now, in many cases, is they're on the internet. I mean, they're browsing around, and obviously they're getting a lot of information from there. So that's not a surprise to any of us. But I'll tell you one thing that's a surprise to me, Jim, is some of the companies out there that don't necessarily get help with their internet strategies. And what I mean by that is, they might say, well, I'll save a couple bucks here. My brother-in-law is kind of a geek. I'm just going to have him put up a website for us. So, all right, great. Brother-in-law says, well, good. I can do that for you. Sure. and ask the question, what do you want on it? Oh. And the business owner goes, well, I don't know. Here's a bunch of brochures of stuff we sell. Just put something up, make it look pretty. Well, I guarantee you that your brother-in-law will probably make that site look pretty, but I also guarantee you it probably will not convert worth a darn. So get some help with web strategies. There are plenty of companies out there. I know, Jim, that you work with companies that can help in many areas of web strategies, whether it be social media or paid search or whatever the case may be. And if you'd like some recommendations of some companies that are good in this area, just let us know. Happy to share that. But it's really something I think oftentimes doesn't get considered enough, is to get some help from some competent people that know our industry. See, we're not selling pizzas here. The kind of web strategy that works to sell pizzas is not going to work in our industry. The conversion process is way different. So get some help with your web strategies.
Yeah, I'm not getting estimates for pizza.
That's right. Get 3.
It's great that you mentioned that. And there's different versions of this internet thing, right?
Yeah.
You've got social media over there. You've got your Google strategy, and that kind of is broken up into a few different pieces, like your SEO, YouTube possibly, and applying that, Google My Business, and those type of things. In our experience, at one point, Facebook was really pretty good. You could target and be really good about getting things out there in front of the ideal buyer. But one of our concepts that we talk about when we teach, like, okay, put yourself in the shoes of your buyer. All right. So let's first figure out who your buyer is. Like, who are they? Because they can vary too. But if you know who that is, where are they? Are they going to Facebook and saying, hey, help me find a great roofer? They're not. They're going to Google. Best roofer near me, roofer in Austin, Texas. Like, that's the type of things they're typing in to find you. And whenever they do, if your website doesn't do what it's supposed to, because it's not supposed to look pretty necessarily. It's supposed to go, hey, here's where you can call me. Here's where you can set up a time for an appointment. It's got to have that stuff on it right away, because that's what we're looking for. Am I off base there at all, Tim?
No, not at all. Most websites that I see in this industry are not set up for conversion. They're set up to provide information. In some cases, they do fine with that. But that's not what we got to do. We got to evolve that from somebody that landed there, regardless of how they got there, to get to the point where they go, I want to talk to these folks one way or another. And that's the conversion process that has to take place on the website. So again, just get some help with this. If you're not satisfied with the way it's going, research some solutions that can really help you. And I find that
we definitely have some resources there that people can reach out to us for. We're going to be placing this podcast out there. Feel free to comment on it on our YouTube channel. Ask us who we suggest. I mean, one of the ones that I'll right off the top of my head, the Hook Agency is really good at doing that type of thing for you. Kill Your Competition is really good at that as well. They're partners of ours, people we trust. They do a great job. I'm sure Tim knows a couple as well.
Sure.
Just comment on our stuff and we'll help you out. We'll help you find the right ones, because Tim, that's the hard part. Like, out of 100 of them out there, 2 or 3 might be worth
You're right.
And it's so hard to find that right one. And leveraging folks to help you out, because not everybody can go out and spend $5,000 or $10,000 on this great converting website, but there's other ways to do it too, through third-party services. You can go to Fiverr.com. There's all kinds of people that people by the hour out there that do some pretty good work to get you in at least a good start on your website that you might improve over time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the ways to create more inquiries, have a high converting website. What else we got going?
Well, some of the things that many of us have tossed aside, radio, TV, some of the biggest players in a lot of the major markets in the country, their presence is really made known through radio and TV and things like that. So that's
a lot more affordable than people think it is.
It is. And it's the same story, Jim, with radio and TV and things such as that. Get some help from some people that know this game in our industry. Don't just rely on your local radio salesperson to handle all this for you, because they probably are not going to make it work. So likewise, we have people we can recommend that can help you with those areas. How about, direct mail? One thing I'm noticing is a lot of the big companies out there, the really large brand manufacturers and so forth, have really stepped up their direct mail. And I know these guys, and I know they don't do it just to do it. And it's ongoing. And
yeah, everything's measured. They have seen the return rate on whatever it is they're doing, and they're literally sitting up there in their ivory tower, pulling the right lever at the right time for these things. And I'll ask you, because this is more judgmental than factual, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
If everybody is doing something one way, so Facebook was really big there for a long time. If everybody's there and doing their thing there, it tends to start to sound like noise or almost a commodity, like there's a whole bunch of them and I just choose whichever one. And so by doing something completely different that isn't being used as much as everybody else, while the number of people you might get in front of shrinks, but their number of options also shrinks. Is that a fair assessment?
I think that's a great way to put it. Obviously years and years ago, all of our mailboxes were full, just like our email inboxes are full today. But what's happened is it's done a flip-flop on that. Now most people's mailboxes are not full of that kind of stuff, until you get into political seasons and things such as that.
Yeah, I was going to say, politics.
Yeah. So it's kind of refreshing. And people go, oh, wow, it's a local company. So don't discount some of those methods to get leads. But again, test, keep track, metrics, how it's working. Obviously with direct mail, one of the better ways to do it is, if you're not doing this, get yourself set up with someone that can, do this for you, because there's plenty of options that are available for this. Certainly do marketing around your existing jobs. My gosh, whether it be direct mail or canvassing or door hangers or a combination of all three. There's not a better setup anywhere than that. You're in a neighborhood where all the homes are probably similar. You got some centers of influence who can tell your story for you. So, have a goal to get another job for every job you install by doing some micro marketing, in the neighborhood. It's just something that for some reason, many of us quit doing when all this digital stuff came around. And it's something that can still work really well today.
Yeah. And I'd add a couple of things there. Like, don't forget about the people that work for you. The people that work for you are a center of influence. They have other people that they know. They should be putting it out there that they do what they do for who they do it for. It should be something that's common in their own social feeds and what they're sharing and getting involved in the community. The very first thing we ever tell a rep, like we hire a new rep, very first thing we tell them, write down everybody you know. Literally write all of them down. And I want you to take out of there all the ones that know a lot of people. So you got two different lists, the ones that know a lot of people and then everybody I know. We're going to write a specific letter and piece of content and email to these guys, and we're going to write a different one to these guys. And just know that you're doing what you're doing. It is shocking how many leads they get just from that first. It's literally the first thing. It's the power of who. We all know all the people we need to know already if we just would let them know what it is that we do. So that's a good way to create a few inquiries right away for a new guy. I agree with you working around your job and usually having a multi-pronged attack. You mentioned it, I think, last week, who people buy from. They buy from people they know, like, and trust. They got to know you first before they can like and trust you. And most of us are skipping this know part, which is why you see the TV ads, the radio ads, the direct mailers, the vehicles that are wrapped and that kind of stuff. Because when they first come into contact on an appointment with somebody, it's not the first time they've ever heard of them. There's been some knowing of who they are. And whenever that presence is larger, whether it's right or wrong, you're trusted more.
Yes.
Is that fair?
It is. It's very fair. So, we best move on. I just want to mention two more under generated inquiries, and you probably got some comments here as well, Jim, but certainly canvassing, still totally viable, and shows and events, obviously very, very viable. The thing about those two elements is get your people trained up right. And that's going to make all the difference in the world, the results you can get from either a canvassing program or your shows and events that you're doing. So plenty of things available training-wise in the industry along those lines.
Yeah, but it's going to take forever if we treat all 5 of these.
I know.
That's a lot of ways to create some inquiries. If you want to get more of that kind of stuff, we do help out with that in our coaching. We apply this thing called AllStar Marketing to what we do, which is based off a book called Guerrilla Marketing. Go check out that book. It's a great book. Tim, you ever read that book?
I certainly have. Loved that.
It's a fantastic book.
Yeah.
It really helped me as a salesperson get my mindset right, that there was nobody to blame for me not making the sales I wanted to make other than myself.
I remember one example that I think was in the Guerrilla Marketing book. I never forgot this. It was just an example that he used where there was a strip mall that had actually 3 different furniture stores kind of in the same strip mall area. And let me make sure I can get this right. The one on the right, it says something like, sale going on, 10, 20% off. And the one on the far left said, sale going on, 30% off. The one in the middle said main entrance. And I thought, that's guerrilla marketing.
Yeah, it's it's so funny. It's smart, is what that is, and it just takes a little bit of thought. It's a lot of fun to work together as a team to build some of those things out.
Yeah.
So now we've got convert those. Like, okay, I got my hand up.
Yeah. All right.
How do I get you to set the appointment?
All right. Sounds good. 2 things. Well, actually, probably more than 2, but because of time, only can deal with 2. The question I ask folks when we get to this part of the conversation is, do you and your company have what I call response ability? Now, break that word in 2. Put a dash in there, response dash ability. And you can also ask yourself the question, are we taking full responsibility for this part of the marketing funnel? So when we're talking about having responsibility, 2 things are critical here: speed and skill. And I know you've had conversation about this, so we don't have to beat this one up too much, Jim, but the speed part of leads, when somebody does raise their hand, however they raise their hand, especially with leads coming from the web, speed is so critical. Just a couple stats here. Let's go here. 78% of customers buy from the first company to respond. If that's true or anywhere near true, you don't want to be second or third or fourth, do you? And how about this? 391% increase in lead conversion when response is within 1 minute or less. And there are a zillion other statistics along these lines, but here's the one I want everybody to remember. We all know these things because you've heard podcasts in the past talking about this same stuff, how important it is. You nodded your head, yes, I agree. How about this one? Here's a stat: 7% of companies respond to leads. Here's the real life. 7% of companies respond to leads within 5 minutes, while 55% of companies respond in 5 days or more. So in other words, we all know this stuff, but most of us don't do it. There's a big difference between knowing and doing. So get yourself some technology or whatever it takes, and it's all out there for you to get this.
The whole idea of speed to lead, I think, is really what you should take away from what Tim's sharing right now. The fast, first off, if they call you on the phone, you don't let them off until there's an appointment. So let's just get to that. There's no hey, I'll have somebody call you back. Train the person answering the phone to do their job, which is to get an appointment for your salespeople. I always use this analogy. If you were to call your hairstylist and say, hey, I need to get my hair done. And they said, sure, no problem. Let me get your name and number, and I'll have Sally call you back in a few minutes. She's cutting somebody's hair right now. And you go, okay. And you give them the name and number, and you hang up the phone. What's the next thing you do? I call the next one. I have a job to do. I have a task to get done. I'm trying to get an appointment to get my hair done, and that didn't work there. So now I'm going to go do this other one. And that's how long you have a choice. Either you're going to get me called back fast enough, I haven't set an appointment yet, or I'm going to set that appointment, I ain't answering your call. One of those two things is going to happen. So set that appointment immediately. Automate as much of it as you possibly. Make it easy for them. Go to your calendar, pick an event, and set it up, and it just goes on there automatically. But do not hesitate whenever it comes to that. Speed to lead is what you should take from that. Would you agree with that, Tim?
I would. So that's the speed part. Let's go to the other S, and that's the skill part. And this might be the area where maybe many of us mess up as much as we do with the speed part. And what I'm talking about there is the skill involved to convert an inquiry to a set appointment. Here's what many of us don't understand is that we've already mentioned that this is an actual sale that has to be made here, one of the 5. You got to sell that person to agree to let somebody come to their home or whatever your process is. And a lot of people confuse this. Oftentimes it's a phone call, either inbound or outbound. They confuse this with selling their product. And you can't do that because you're not selling your product right here. You're selling what's known as the value of the visit. And that's different. That is different. And if you don't have your people that are on the phone here trained up and scripted properly, so they know how to handle the common things that come their way, like, hey, you just want to get a price. If you don't know how to handle that at this part of the game elegantly, you're going to lose so much right here. It's unbelievable. And then your funnel is going to continue to narrow out, and we're still towards the top of it. So this skill part is huge. Get your.
Well, you think about it, the homeowner doesn't really realize what goes on one of those appointments. They think you're going to show up and just show them a bunch of products and stuff, but there's measurements and there's all the things that are really important to doing what you do, the amount of time that's going to be necessary, setting the proper expectation there, and why that time is important, because you're going to give them the lowdown that nobody else is going to give them about their particular project so that they can get the best possible options for them as a solution. It's just like training that person answering the phone is paramount to bumping that number.
It certainly is, and Jim, I know you've probably known some people that have done this, and maybe some people listening to broadcast have also done this. But if you've ever talked to anybody, or if you have subscribed to one of these call recording services, there's a number of them out there. And I'll never forget, I was at a conference, I think in Arizona, actually, Jim, a number of years ago. And the guy came in the back door and he looked pale. So, Scott, what's the matter? He says, oh my gosh, we just got this call recording service and I just listened to a lot of the things that my people are saying on the phone when we're trying to set appointments. And he said, I cannot believe it. And I think most people that have done this and subscribe to these kind of services have a similar experience, that they go, oh my gosh, what are we saying? An example is somebody calls up and says, hey, we're interested in windows. Person on the phone in your company says, great, we do windows. What kind are you looking for? And this person says, oh, gee, they don't have any more windows. I don't know. Wood windows? And your person at your company goes, oh, darn, we don't do wood windows here. We just do these vinyl and composites. I'll tell you what, let me get you the number of Pella for you, and I'm sure they can help you out. That's just an example of the kind of things that can go on.
I would have physically thrown up listening to that phone call. That would have been terrible.
Right.
All right. So that's converting inquiries to appointments.
Yep.
Skilled, understanding what we're doing, having some scripts for our folks, having them practice and well played out, understanding what it is that they're doing. They're selling the appointment. They're not selling anything else. That was really good. So now I got an appointment, right?
Yep.
Got to turn that into a demo. What do we need to do there?
Well, mid-funnel here, I like to call this lead warming. That's where you can start here. And not a term many of us really have heard before, but it's pretty descriptive in terms of what it is. Do some things to warm this person up before your salesperson arrives. And this can be all sorts of things. Can be text messaging. Most people prefer that kind of communication from your company. It might have a picture of the salesperson coming, or an email with a picture of the salesperson and a link to some online reviews, or a PDF consumer guide that you can email to them, or anything like that. What this will do is it'll set your company off to a positive first impression. And oftentimes what that means is you're going to be welcomed with opened arms at that home rather than folded arms, because you're doing things that other companies aren't doing. Little things like this, like this text message or this email with that picture to the salesperson. You might think, gee, that seems a little hokey. Not at all. People want to know who they're going to be doing business with. Frankly, they're fairly anxious about the experience they're about to go through. So anything you can do along these lines is going to help dramatically to reduce cancellations of appointments and beyond that. So those are some of the things you can do. Again, lead warming. If you're not doing any lead warming, doesn't take much to start. Technology's out there that can do all this for you. And I think it's a big thing to help your demo rates.
Yeah, I think the simple one, the easiest one, is introducing the salesperson before he ever comes out. Because they don't know. I mean, is he the big burly dude with tats all over him and is scary and all that other good stuff? Or is he just a normal next door dude to me and like, oh, okay, he seems pretty cool. We usually will coach putting together an email automated through our system that it's introducing your evaluator or estimator or whatever you call your particular people that are out there, but it's got a great headshot of the guy or gal. It's got a little bio about them, even to the point of like they're married and they have 3 kids. Went to this school or college. Like, turn them into a person instead of a salesperson, and that can go a long ways. Lead warming. It is setting it up so that the salesperson has the best opportunity for success out there. Probably setting some expectations too. Of what to expect whenever my guy gets there.
Yep.
That takes care of that one. I want to stay on track here. So we've got from appointment to a demo, so what they're going to expect, and this person that's coming out. Now I got to go from demo to like, let's close this deal. What does that look like?
Yeah, that's the bottom of the funnel. We're entering the bottom of the funnel. It's not the very bottom. And I want to look at this from 2 angles, Jim, and I want to look at it from what can we do to help close more sales now or immediately or in the future. So when we're talking about closing more sales now, frankly, that's a lot of what we discussed in the podcast we did last week. So you may want to review that and get some information there. Well, let me just mention a couple things briefly. Sales training. Don't skimp on sales training for your gang. Continually train your people up. I know that's a service that I'm guessing, Jim, you guys offer a lot of help with in many areas.
Maybe a little.
Yeah. So continue to get sales training for your staff. It'll pay its way over and over and over again. And I'm talking about even training the veterans, so to speak, because they may not change, but consumers change. So they got to keep up with that. So sales training, big. Secondly, we talked about this quite a bit last week, Jim, so we won't do much today. But make sure you're leveraging financing in all of your presentations, and make sure you're giving people an option for financing every time you give a quote. You can give them the cash price, but give them that financing option. And if you do, you're going to end up getting jobs you would not have gotten if you didn't make that available to them. Don't wait for them to ask, because many won't. So offer financing. Third thing, use technology in your presentation so your company stands above the rest. And what I'm talking about here is programs like Engage, like our product Paradigm Vendo, which is an in-home presentation, quoting, contract generation tool. That's what people are expecting nowadays. I think I saw a stat recently where 72% of the people, look at, technology other types of industries are using and comparing it to what you're doing. So if you're going in there with a 6-inch wide pitch book full of unorganized stuff, you're really not going to look very well to these people. So those are some things you can do to probably impact immediate closing ratios. So, You want to add a couple things there? If not, I want to move on to what can we do to get some sales a little bit in the future? And this is a big one.
Yeah, I think you covered that one really well. Plus, seriously, if you did not see the previous podcast of this, we cover these 5 key things that the people we're talking to demand from a presentation. So go listen to that. The only thing I would say to that is he mentioned having a digital presentation, and we get a lot of pushback about this. Like, I know my stuff. I can go in and give my presentation and all that. You miss stuff. You just do. And we get a little bit overconfident because it actually works. The worst thing that can possibly happen is for you to have a presentation that's organized and formatted in a way to give you the highest possible chance of success, and for you to skip something and still make the sale. Because when you do, you get lazy, and then your close rates go down, and you're not realizing why, because it worked once for you. You think it's going to work every time. It just happened to work with that one person. Being very consistent also allows you to measure the success of your overall team based on that thing, and train specifically to it to make you masters of what you do out there, instead of just shoot from the hip style presentations. And those technology tools will keep you on track. And I think that's the most important thing to really take away from that, is you're not going to miss a piece that's really important that you may not realize is important to that prospective client.
Well, you're right. And you mentioned a stat last week, Jim. I don't remember the exact number, but I think you mentioned a stat that X% of sales presentations end without an attempt to close. You remember what that number was?
Yeah, it's 67%.
Yeah. But here's the thing. That's the close.
All that, and you didn't even ask. It's so crazy.
Yeah. Here's the thing. How many presentations, maybe there's an attempt to close that's being done, but maybe that presentation skipped needs analysis step. What's the chance of closing that one? Probably not very good. So in other words, if you're not on this track that hits all the bases of that presentation that are necessary and automates the process and keeps salespeople on track, you're going to miss these things. Not just the no attempt to close. You're going to miss some of the other important steps that, frankly, are just as important to the sale as that closing attempt. So important. And I'm glad you brought that up.
So we've given a great demo. We've got them as a customer. They chose financing, filled out a contract. We're ready to go to step 5 now. And you use the term raving fans, right? This person that I've sold leading to one more sale. We did a bit of a study on this back when I was a contractor, and what I found is that for every 3 sales we were making, we were getting 1 additional sale, driving me nuts. Like, I want 3 for every 1 we sell. That's kind of where my baseline runs. And we started to build out some tools and things to help out with that. But we learned a few things. I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this. That's maybe we're in alignment, or maybe we can add something to each other and help these guys even more today.
Sure, happy to. If you don't mind, though, I'd like to go.
This is where I was going to ask you a question first.
Oh, go.
Do you have the stat? Because this is a stat I've heard a bunch. I don't know. Like, Market Sharp might be able to tell us. I don't know. But what is the stat for a salesperson actually asking the customer for a referral? The number I heard is 11%.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm surprised it would be that high. I don't know that, but I don't think it's any more than that, Jim.
Yeah. And there's, whenever I hear stats like that are just so mind-boggling that they don't make sense. The big question to me is why? Why don't we?
Yeah.
And sometimes I think it's just maybe that salesperson not feeling like they lived up to the expectations that they set. And so that could play a part. Sometimes they just forget because it's not a part of their process. What are some of the things you see in helping to create a situation where it's at least 1 for 1?
Yeah, well, hold on a sec. Let me back up one step here.
Okay.
Something I want to cover that, in my opinion, is huge. And what that is, we talked about the bottom of the funnel and converting that customer to a sale. We talked about training, financing, using technology. That's what you can do to get the sale now. But what about the ones that don't buy right away? I want to talk about that. And here's a stat. We've already established the fact that when demos are made, I think the closing rate was about a little over a third, 37% or something. So in other words, 3 out of every 10 leads you give your salespeople and they demo are turning into sales. And by the way, the average cost of an issued lead in our industry, now don't misunderstand, I didn't say the average cost of generating an inquiry. The average cost of an issued lead that goes to generating a lead, getting it set to an appointment, getting it confirmed and issued to a salesperson is over $400 now. So what happens when we go generate 10 leads? First off, we spend about $4,000 and we send our salespeople out and they come back with 3 sales, which is cool. You probably can make a profit at that. But what happens to those 7 that don't buy right away? And here's what we've learned through research. We've learned 60% of them. These are the ones that tell your salespeople they're going to think about it, get other estimates, all the excuses, some legit, some not. What happens to them? Of the 7, 60% of them are going to buy within a year. That's 4.2 more sales available in those unsold leads in your business. You've invested so heavily in those. So many companies, Jim, virtually do nothing with these. Now, will some creep back in when you get one here and there? Sure. But you need to be proactive with what I call your lead nurturing activities with these unsold leads. Because when you consider the fact that there's 4.2 more sales available in those original 10 leads, which is more than you got originally when you sold the 3. Does it make sense?
Oh yeah, we call it rehash.
Absolutely. You know, and
it can go as far as you want it to go, right? Like it could simply be nurturing, like reminding people that the opportunity exists, that you're still out there and available. Then you can get into pipeline management, which a lot of people don't really understand. Pipeline management that, like you used, 7 out of 10 are still sitting out there, right?
Yeah.
Well, those 7 people, we can do a pretty general idea of what their job is worth. It might not be exact to the penny, but a pretty close approximation. Whenever you start to put the number to that, so let's say 7 times $10,000 projects, that's 700. What is that? $70,000.
Yeah,
$70,000 in sales just sitting there waiting for you to do a little follow up. Not a lot, even. Just if you did any, it would make a massive difference. You look at that as this. And whether it's the salesperson because we don't have a deep enough team yet, or hire somebody to start doing a rehashing program, just that fact, this is a stat that is an amazing stat.
Well, it is.
We ask people this question like afterwards, like we missed the first call. So then we now put them into our system to rehash and nurture. And when we get done with that one, we ask them why they went with us. 57% said they went with us because we're the only one that called them back.
Exactly. Now that is great.
Just call them back, man. Seriously.
Here's the math. Remember, that lead costs $400, right? And for you, maybe $300, $250, I don't know. Costs a lot of money to generate that issued lead. Send your salespeople out, they come back, with 33% closing. Now we've established 60% of the ones that didn't buy are going to buy within a year. Now let's analyze what a nurturing campaign would cost and potentially return. So let's say we want to follow up with these unsold leads 10 times within the next year. And that's nurturing. Now, can you call them 10 times? No, they'll hate you. But could there be a phone call here and there, maybe one announcing a price increase, following a direct mail piece? So let's do this. Let's say we send 2 direct mail pieces throughout this year at a cost of, $1 each. We send 4 emails at a cost of, frankly, nothing. 2 text messages, I don't think there's a cost there either.
It's minimal. Like it's not even part of the equation, really.
Right. And maybe 2 phone calls, and maybe they cost you $1 each. So if you followed that train of these 10 follow-ups, you spent $2 on direct mail and $2 on 2 phone calls, you spent $4 to follow up on this lead you already invested $400 in, knowing that 60% of these people are going to buy within a year. Could this be like the best marketing investment you ever make? And the answer is yes, it could. So again, embrace technology. There's plenty of CRM systems out there that'll do this for you. There's other companies out there that will do text messaging on your behalf and things such as that. So I didn't want to leave that undone.
We do it here at Contractor Coach Pro. We use a tool called Go High Level to make sure that we are following up, staying relevant, providing information as it's needed as it comes out. Because at some point, while the timing may not have been right then on that day when we were talking to them, they didn't raise their hand because they weren't interested in coaching.
Exactly.
So keeping it up front when the time is right. It's shocking how many people have come to us and been like, "Yeah, I talked to you 2 years ago, but you kept sending me stuff. I'm ready now."
Here's what happened. They get a tax return check or something, and John says to Mary, "Mary, we got a little extra money now. Let's go ahead and get that roof or those windows finally ordered." And she goes, "Yeah, great idea." And then all of a sudden he says, "Do you remember who they were?" And
nope.
She goes, "No, let's see, Windows, Anderson."
Oh,
because they spent $1 billion in advertising. And they go get your job. Don't let that happen. Be there 10 times within that next year and just touch them. And frankly, they won't notice 9 of those touches until they finally get that tax return check back and it jumps off their screen at them and they go, "Yeah, that's the company." That's the way this works. Kind of crazy.
Yeah. It used to be if you contacted somebody 7 times, that was the number.
Right.
That has now changed. It's changed dramatically. 22 touches is what and none of them inappropriate, just normal marketing touches, right? Like that's 22 is what it takes to finally end up in a sale on average. To me, that's wild. That could be, a combination of a variety of things, but they've got to see it 22 times.
Yep. Sometimes 10 of those 22 got to happen before they even talk to you.
Yeah, before they even raise their hand the first time.
That's correct. All right, let's get to the bottom of the funnel here.
We gotta make them raving fans. I like to use the word zealot. I can't go a day without talking about you. How do we do that better?
Well, I think a couple things. First off, you give them, and we talked about this in the last podcast, a truly remarkable customer experience. And when I say that, that doesn't mean you install a nice roof. It doesn't mean you install easy to clean windows. They expect that. Give them something in their experience where they go, "My gosh, this was really something special." In other words, that word remarkable, think about the word and what it means. Literally, it means make remarks about. And you got to give them an experience where they can't help but want to make these remarks about you. And that'll turn into online reviews, and that'll turn into a customer that'll want to, shout your story from their rooftop. So first, give them that remarkable experience. And then
it doesn't have to be crazy either. Just
no,
because most people that buy what we do are expecting to be satisfied. Like, just do what it was you said you were going to do, and you said you're going to do it, and do it. And I would say for the most part, contractors, while you may hear otherwise, are pretty good at that, like delivering what it is that they're going to do. But do they do the little extra thing? Do they clean out the gutters for them? Do they put the potted plants back where they go? Do they sweep up whenever they get done? Do they put on the booties before they walk into the house? Do they put caution tape across the front of the property so the kids aren't running in and out of the property if they're doing exterior work? Like what do you do that's different? And we always had this thing that we called finishing with a flourish. A way to finish where you leave this indelible mark on the person that you were working with. And it started the first day you were there. You were looking for the thing. What are they into? Are they into hunting? maybe a subscription to a really cool hunting magazine.
Mm-hmm.
Are they into coffee and stuff like that? Okay, there's a coffee club membership. Maybe their kids are huge into baseball, couple tickets to the ball game. That thing right there that you give them at the very, like, here you go, whether you pay me or not, like, this is yours. It's a gift from me to you for the experience that we had together. You are their person forever. They will never forget you. And it doesn't take much. And it's really not that expensive considering what we make from salesperson's side of things. Now, you see companies do it too. We have a company here called Cantex. The guys from Canada has a roofing company in Texas. Everybody gets this bottle of maple syrup in the shape of a maple leaf with the Texas flag on it, which just sticks out, right? It's different. How do you make yourself unique like that so that you are the first person they think of? You can't just drop the ball there, though, either. That same lead nurturing campaign that you did while they were sitting out there open, you're still doing a sim type thing afterwards using technology to remind people, like, hey, you got something cool going on. If they have any friends that are interested, it could be beneficial to them. Am I on the right page there?
You certainly are. I love that. Finish with a flourish. I love that.
I always wanted people to just go, man, that Jim Johnson dude, he is pretty cool. And for them to invite me to hang out for a beer or come over to a barbecue on a different day was not unusual. I'm like, hey, I kind of like this guy. And I was always looking for them to, like, the ultimate goal for me was that maybe I found a new valuable friend.
Yep.
That person sitting across the table from me.
You're right.
So
once you give that remarkable experience, then the next step is you got to enable them to help them tell the story for you. And they will. And here's what don't work, Jim. Somebody says, hey, thanks for the great roof or the great windows or siding, whatever the case may be. We just love it. And you say to them, great, would you mind putting up an online review for us? Here's what they'll say. Sure, happy to. Here's what they'll do. Nothing. They don't know how to do this stuff, most cases. So you got to enable them to tell your story for you. As simple as an email that has a link to help them do that, or have, do business with one of these companies that does that on your behalf might be the easiest way to do that. So that's the way you're going to get all these online reviews. And there's a metric that I think we all should track now, Jim, that many of us don't. And what that is a metric I call PREA, P-R-E-A. And what that is positive review efficiency average, simple math, positive reviews acquired divided by completed jobs. And I think we should have a goal of 60% of our completed jobs should end up with positive online reviews. Now, that's not going to happen by itself. You got to get proactive with this. But if you do that, you're going to have all these things working for you 24/7 that are really going to help your business in many, many ways. So that's the funnel. If you got anything you want to add there, otherwise what we can wind down with, Jim, is this compounding effects concept and what some of these little small incremental improvements we talked about for the last 45 minutes or so, what effect it'll have on the business.
Yeah, I think that's where we go now. I've kept you over time, and so and these guys listen to podcasts are like, okay, tell me the big thing, and that's where we're at right now. This is the part that really tripped my trigger when I was talking to you last week. That I thought, man, we got to do a whole thing about this because we just made some improvements. We just took the 5 levels of the funnel. We gave at least 2 or 3 golden nuggets on each one to improve the results that you have in each one. So if we did, what happens?
Well, you bet. So let's take those and see what happens. And I'm going to suggest you do this. I'm going to suggest you have a staff meeting and say, hey, staff, whether you're an appointment setter, a salesperson, a marketing person, or whatever the case may be, let's all commit to get 5%. Let's do 10% better. I'll go to 5% in a second. Let's all commit to get 10% better at our job and see what effect it'll have on our business. Meaning your marketing people generate 10% more leads. Your salespeople improve their closing ratio by 10%. That doesn't mean they go from 37% to 47%. It means they go from 37%, up to maybe 39 or 40%, totally achievable. So just think of every one of those 5 steps, just getting 10% better at what you do by implementing some of the things we talked about here today, plus other things. And something very interesting happens. Jim, your business doesn't grow by 10% by getting 10% better. Your revenue grows by 61% because these numbers, these conversion percentages throughout the funnel compound with these incremental improvements. And it's ridiculous what happens at the end. So a 61% improvement in revenue, not to mention profitability, which is probably greater, is going to happen to your business just by getting 10% better at what you do. If you don't think you can do that, get 5% better and your business will grow by 28%. Still quite amazing. And there's one more thing I want to add to that, after maybe you make a comment or two here, Jim, to give people a little bit of something to think about.
So this is the whole reason we were here, right? Like that stat of 61% better. If I could just get 10% better, you were good about explaining what you mean by 10%, right? Like if I close at 37%, well, 10% of that is 3.7. So I'm only going to get to like 40, right? Yes. I'm not going to get to 47. I just got to get to 40, which is a very small, like micro adjustment. That's just probably most of the salespeople in your organization are one technique away from hitting that number. We always talk about that at our top rep. You're one technique away from getting the sale. Yep. So improving that training and spending more time there will move that number. Doing the things we suggested for getting more inquiries, moving that number just a little bit. When you said 5% is 28% better, like if I did nothing else other than moving those numbers by 5%, my company would grow 28%. That's the only thing I focus on. And I think they should run the math in their own company. Go look at how many inquiries you got, how many of those became appointments, how many of those became demos, how many of those became sales, and how many of those generated referrals. Do your math there, and then just add 5% to that in each one and see what the actual end result is. It'll boggle your mind.
Here's an exercise. I wish we could show this on screen, but we can't. But I have this thing that's kind of a circle. Got a circle like that. And what we have is these 5 parts there that we talked about, these conversion parts of the funnel. And they're all a little slice of that circle. And then going up the circle, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what I suggest people do is just go put a dot at how good you are at that particular part of the conversion funnel, closing sales, converting appointments or inquiries to set appointments and things such as that. Rate yourself on that scale of 1 to 5, put a dot in that circle up that line. And I don't know if you can visualize this, but then what I suggest you do is once you get all your dots there, connect them. And what I find in every case is that thing goes all over the place. You got a company that's 5 at this, but they're 2 at that. And they're 3 over here. And the goal is to make that circle perfectly round and as far out to the edge as you can. So I don't know if I was able to convey that visualization, but that really tells a great story of how to analyze your company and say, where can we use some help? Because in some cases, you're probably great at some things. But
you did a fantastic job of indicating to all the podcast listeners that they should go subscribe to our YouTube channel because you visually showed it by hand what you were doing. And I think they get the concept.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right. So 10% better in each one of those 5, we grow our company by 61%.
One more thing. Get 10% better. And something I see rampant in our industry, Jim, is people having their products mispriced. In other words, they're not charging enough.
Okay, I was hoping you weren't going to say they're too low.
No, they're not charging enough. And I'm gonna suggest something. I'm gonna suggest, and I don't know your pricing. You might be fine, but I find most people aren't. Most people are not charging enough in our industry. I'm gonna suggest you raise your price along with getting 10% better, and watch your business grow by 78%. But here's the thing about raising your price. I want to call it normalize your price rather than raise it. And the reason is you want to get your profitability of your company up to normal levels, the way a business should run. And oftentimes when I have this conversation with people, Jim, people will say, I don't think we can raise our price. I think it would just negatively impact sales. And for those of you that might think that, I want you to think of this. Think of the company or companies in your market that are selling the most units of the kind of products you sell: windows, roofing, siding, whatever the case may be. Think of these companies, the ones that are just killing it, selling so much stuff it's unbelievable, and check their pricing out. And I'm willing to bet.
Have them come in and give you a demo.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet these companies that are doing the most business and the most units have the highest prices in your market. So what does that tell you?
Well, they're great at these 5 things.
Yeah, but it tells me one thing. They have the money to work with to grow their business. Many of us that don't have our products priced properly, we don't have enough money to truly grow our business and maybe do some branding that's necessary or whatever the case may be. So take that for what it's worth. Think of your pricing in 2023. Think about these little incremental improvements you can make in your business. And hopefully, Jim, some of the things we chatted about today, resonated with some of the folks and maybe they can act on a couple things here.
Well, I think the reason so many people have that problem that you're talking about, pricing their products correctly, is they have a lack of belief that their business is any better than anybody else's business because there's nothing unique or proprietary about what they do.
Yeah.
And so when that's the case, you're now a commodity. I'm just shopping from fencing company, a fencing company, a fencing company, a roofing to roofing to roofing, and I'm just looking for the best price because you're all the same. But if this one stands out as unique and different, I'm willing to pay more for that. You're taking stress off of me. You're delivering a better product. You're putting on a better system. You're doing something that is not what they're doing, and it holds value to it. And people sell on price way too much versus selling on actual value. This thing that you're going to get from us that's different from everybody else. We preach it all the time. I think most contractors have heard it. I think where they struggle with it is how to create it and truly believe in it, because it can't be fake. It has to be genuine and authentic, that the product I sell, the way we install it, the systems we use, the people that do the work, our follow-up, our communication, our everything is better than everybody else's. Mm-hmm. If you can say that, you can charge more. It's just that simple.
Agreed.
Another awesome podcast. And Tim, this is great, man. I feel like I could talk to you for podcasts for the rest of the year. I think there's a whole fountain of information there. I think we'll stop it here for these two, and then we'll come back to one maybe later on in the season. But thank you for providing so much value last week and again this week. I really had to have you on for this one right away, just so we can do it like a part 1 and a part 2. I think if the listeners just went back and listened to these two over and over and over again, they're going to keep pulling new pieces out of it that are just going to continue to improve their business. Any last words, Tim, from you on this subject or about Paradigm Vendo?
Yeah, on this subject, let me just say this. We started the conversation with some metrics, if you remember that. We talked about those conversion percentages and all that. So along with embracing technology as a suggestion to grow your business, you got to know metrics. You got to know these numbers. If you don't know these numbers that we mentioned in your business, you got to start getting them. So get some help. You don't have the tools necessary to get these numbers out of your business, get them, because how are you going to grow your business if you can't monitor what's going on and see these improvements and know what's working, what's not, and all that. So knowing your numbers is so important. And yes, we'd love at Paradigm Vendo to have a conversation and chat with anyone that'd like to learn about our solutions. Pretty cool stuff we got going on with Vendo. If you haven't heard about it or looked at it yet, you might want to take a look, because it certainly can help in a couple of those areas in that conversion funnel, and certainly help you get beyond a 10% improvement there. So can reach out to me at tim.musch, that's M-U-S-C-H, at myparadigm.com. And
Awesome.
Jim, maybe you can put that in the.
It'll be in the show notes. It'll be in the YouTube comments area. We will make sure that everybody can get a hold of you over there, Tim. I'm interested in looking at more of what you guys do too, and just learning more about how Paradigm Window plays a part out there in the industry. So we probably need to set that up and talk about that a little bit. And who knows, maybe we bring even more value to the contractors out there so we can raise the bar. That's your job as a contractor. I want to be really simple and just high level about what your job is, to raise the bar in your industry and your market so that everybody has to chase you instead of you chasing everybody. That's your job. It's not that hard, really. The funny thing about it, whenever I got into this industry, I looked around and went, oh man, this is going to be easy. It's not that hard to beat your competition. All you got to do is be 1% better. Tim, thanks for being on the show today. I look forward to talking to you more in the future and maybe having you back on some other subjects. I have a feeling there's like I said, a fountain of knowledge there that I would like to tap into. I took notes today. People probably saw me looking down if you're watching the YouTube. I'm literally over here taking notes as we're talking. You know what? I want to call this out. Response ability, how fast you get to lead to call. That's that should be something you write on the board for whoever's answering the phone. Selling the value of your visit. I thought that was great. And I'm just so you know, I'm going to borrow all of these. That's why I take notes.
Well, truth be known, I think I borrowed those myself, Jim. So
yeah, there's nothing new, right?
Right.
Lead warming and using technology to do that. Remarkable. You talked about that last week and again this week. Those were the big four things I kind of took out of this and went, those are things I could put on the board and really focus my team around and probably move that needle, that 10% that I need. So thanks for sharing all those with us. It was awesome.
You're welcome. Thanks for the opportunity, Jim. I enjoyed it.
All right, Tim. All right, everybody. That was Tim Musch from Paradigm Window. Just for him sharing that knowledge for over these last 2 weeks, I would go get a demo. Even if you don't even know what the product is or what it is they do, go get a demo because I have a feeling he might share some pretty valuable information from over 30 years of experience in this home services industry. If you're trying to get some of these things figured out and trying to be unique and remarkable and memorable, selling on value instead of price, trying to get your business to a level of profit that you're actually worth, check us out at contractorcoachpro.com. Go to our page, click on the assessment button, fill out that assessment about your business, and we'll do an actual free coaching call with you. Not a sales pitch or anything like that. We're going to actually do a coaching call based off of what we found from your assessment. If you like it, great, and you want to do some coaching, awesome. If it's not your bag of tricks or it's the wrong time, that's okay too. We just want to make sure that we give you 2 or 3 things that would help you move your business forward right away. And who knows, maybe at some point we become friends because we're going to nurture you just like we talked about today. And when the time is right, we might be there for you. So again, that's contractorcoachpro.com. Go click on the Take Contractor Assessment button, and we'll see you on the inside. Thanks for hanging out with us here at Contractor Radio. That's our show for today, and we will see you again next week.